Hello and welcome to Money Tips. This is Charles Kelly bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate and enjoy more money. Well, we've heard about the stamp duty holiday coming to an end, and a lot of people have been predicting that prices would fall as this massive demand for properties levels off or dips, and that is exactly what's happened. House prices dropped in June by only 0.5%, but it's a drop after we saw nearly a year of month-on-month rises. Now the annual property price rise is still up near the 9%, and I think that the Halifax have said it's 8.8%. The Nationwide survey that I talked about a week ago said it was higher. It was more like 13%. Because these are lender figures. These are figures from these two biggest lenders. They're not the official figures from Land Registry, but they'll be there or thereabouts. But the average price of a house, rose by £21,000, which is really more than most people would save on the stamp duty holiday. So a lot of people were scrambling to buy properties and paying more for that property than they could possibly save. And so, the average price, according to the lender, is now 260,000 across the UK, £250,000, or maybe they're talking about England, Wales and Northern Ireland, not Scotland. But in parts of the southeast, an average price of a house in the suburbs areas is more like £500,000. So it's very difficult for people to get on the ladder. Now, people were buying houses perhaps not just because of the stamp duty, but because they wanted a bigger house, and prices in that bracket went up by higher. They went up by 10%, or some for the larger houses, they went up by £47,000 in cash terms, which is way more than people would save on stamp duty. But some people argue that it was not just about the stamp duty. They wanted to buy a house. There's a shortage of property still, so they still needed to buy and move, whether it was a stamp duty holiday or not. And thousands of people missed the deadline. Of course, there are people sitting in a chain of buyers and sellers who could not complete by the 30th of June, and the government will no longer extend that stamp duty holiday, because of course they extended it from March. It's been going on for nearly a year now, and obviously this ends up costing all the taxpayers money, because that's less revenue that the government got from stamp duty. And so it has to be found somewhere, and it all costs the taxpayer money at the end of the day. But that's where it is. That's where we are. I personally think stamp duty is an obscene tax anyway. To tax a young couple maybe £10,000 or £15,000 to buy a property is obscene, especially when you consider that they are rowing their own boat. They're buying their own place. They're not saying to the government or the council, "Oh, you got to house me because I've got nowhere to live. I've got 4 kids." They are saying, "No, we're going to buy somewhere ourselves." Whether that means they have to move way out into the suburbs and travel into town every day, or whatever, or borrow from their parents or grandparents, they are taking the initiative to buy their property, and they shouldn't be taxed like this. Yeah, it's okay to have stamp duty used to be 1%. It was a nothing tax. You could easily just pay it out of short change. It was, you might pay, on £100,000, you pay a stamp duty of £1,000. It's hardly here nor there. But anyway, that's my little rant about stamp duty. Now, in other parts of the country, seaside towns are getting a bit upset with all you London people coming and buying our properties down in our seaside towns, and they're getting a bit pissed off with it, because London buyers are able to maybe remortgage their properties and buy a second home in somewhere like Devon, Cornwall, Norfolk, and now increasingly Wales, because Devon and Cornwall have gone up so much. It's so expensive now that they've been pushed out of those areas, where they might have to pay, in Dorset and Devon, maybe 500, 600, 700, £1 million for a property. They can go to Wales and buy something much cheaper. So there's one Welsh authority, Gwynedd. It's up in the south, the northwest coast, which is a lovely village on the sea. They have decided to hit homeowners who buy their homes for second homes or holiday homes with double council tax. So they're doubling the amount of council tax they would charge to anybody who has a second home in that area. And the council has said it would raise an extra $3 million a year to pay for social housing, which that might be true, but councils already can build social housing. They have money, they have access to very low-cost borrowing from the government, but they won't do it. It baffles me why they won't build more council properties and solve the housing crisis. Don't forget, I was a councillor for 10 years, and I used to ask my council, why won't you build more council properties? They said, no, we don't want to do that because people might buy them later on under a right to buy. What? Well, at least they're in a house. At least that they've been housed. They're not in temporary accommodation or a hotel, or they're not moving hundreds of miles away to afford a property. They're in a property. And in any case, most of them wouldn't be able to afford to buy such an expensive house anyway. But anyway, as I was saying, the councils won't build these properties for people. So now they want to tax, second homeowners who, could argue that it's their right to buy a property where they want. They're bringing money into the economy. But the councils argue that, you've got an area where maybe 10-20% of the properties are all empty most of the time, and therefore that the life in that town or village has been destroyed because there's only weekenders there, and probably in the winter they don't go there. I mean, Wales is a pretty bleak, cold place most of the year. You've got wind blowing off the Irish Sea. This is not like sunny Bournemouth. It's a different kettle of fish. So I doubt if people would go there in the winter. So they're annoyed that local people have been pushed out by these wealthier buyers from London, and it's destroying the makeup of the town and the village life and that sort of thing, which is true. It is happening, and people in Cornwall have been long complaining about this. And it's long been a problem in Wales. Swansea Council, Swansea City are planning to do the same thing. And there's always been a bit of hostility with the Welsh. I remember even going back 40 years, I remember reading about people's houses being burned down by, was it the Angry Brigade or the Red Brigade from Wales? I don't know. But the Welsh government are, pretty socialist lot, and socialists love raising taxes so they can spend other people's money. That's what they do. But something has to be done about this. Obviously, it's a serious issue. If people from London can, pull out, a couple of £100,000 of equity from their £1 million home, that's just an ordinary house. It's nothing special. And so let's go and buy a cottage in Wales, and but something has to be done to solve the problem of the local people in those villages not being able to afford to live there any longer after maybe living there for generations. Now, talking about money, is cheap money fueling these price rises and a possible bubble? Well, I think part of it is to do with that. Now, mortgages are so cheap, you can get mortgages at 1%, which is ridiculous. I've had a mortgage years ago at 16%. 16.25% was one of the highest mortgages I paid for my first flat, and it was a killer. But now you can get, the NRLA, the Landlords Association, are acting as a sort of an intermediary. It's a bit of extra money for them. They get a broker fee for it. It's a bit of affiliate marketing, really. They're offering a 2-year fixed rate loan on a buy-to-let. This is not residential, which is usually cheaper. 2-year fixed rate loan at 1.25%. That's 1.25%. And they'll give you free legal fees as well, and a £250 cash back. It's crazy, isn't it? That means you could borrow £1 million, and if you did it on interest only, your monthly repayments were just over £1,000 a month. It's crazy. You couldn't rent a £1 million property for £1,000 a month. You'd be looking at, if I think about £1 million properties around here, £2,000 a month, maybe a bit more, 2.5. £1 million, a 4-bed house. It's so that cheap money is perhaps encouraging people to pull equity out of their property and buy second homes, or certainly it's encouraging people to borrow huge amounts when they're buying even their first property. But rates will not stay like that forever, because inflation is already starting to rise in America and the UK. So I see inflation pushing up. We all know that things are costing more, don't we? Even the Bank of England admitted that prices of food and things were going up like crazy. But but they said it would be temporary. But we know that commodities have gone up, so oil, cost of transport as well, and lots of things have just gone up in price, and so that's inflation. The official figures are still showing inflation at around 2%, but gradually they will come through and show higher costs, and then the government will have to do what they usually do to stop inflation, and that's raise interest rates. However, the government are in between a rock and a hard place, because they need inflation to devalue the amount that they've borrowed, the trillions that they've borrowed in and printed. Now, they've got to pay that back at some stage. So if they issue government bonds, which are loan notes, and borrow $1 trillion, and those loan notes have got to be paid back in 10 or 20 years' time, then as long as there's inflation, that $1 trillion will probably be worth like $500 billion by the time they've paid it back. And it's the same thing when you borrow on a mortgage. By the time you end up paying that mortgage over years and years, inflation has eroded the value of that borrowing, so it's reduced the borrowing, but it has increased the value of your property. So the government need inflation, but they also need low interest rates, because if interest rates go up, they are usually then paying a higher interest rate on their borrowing as well. So they can't hike up rates too much because it would bankrupt governments. But on the other hand, inflation is going to start pushing prices up, and there may be a need to start increasing interest rates. So, on that £1 million example, if rates went up by 1%, then, their payments will double also. They'd start paying £2,000 a month. So there you go. Well, that's what the situation we're in at the moment. Will this property price bubble burst, and will we see a massive reduction? We don't know. Nobody knows. But what I do know is that the stock market has been rising since the last crash, so more than 10 years now. Property prices have been rising for more than 10 years now. And these things never last. They never have done. You don't see property prices rising up and up and up like this for 15, 20 years. It just doesn't happen. They might in some areas gradually go up, but this is not a gradual rise. This is like rises of 10, 12% in a year, and more than that in previous years. So that's history. History could repeat itself, and we could see some sort of crash. It could be a non-property related matter that causes the markets to crash. In the last financial crisis, it was these mortgage-backed securities, which were junk mortgage-backed securities sold as prime mortgage-backed securities. When that collapsed, it caused the markets to collapse all over, and then the property market as well. But so it could be something like that. It could be something that just triggers some sort of panic in the market, and then the stock market will tumble like dominoes. And Michael Burry, who predicted the last crash in 2000 and made a fortune from it, he has said that there's what's coming is the mother of all crashes and the mother of all depressions that is coming. Now, you may remember him in that film about the crash, which I can't remember the name of the movie now, but you catch it on Netflix or Prime or something. And he was the guy playing the drums, the mad sort of investment banker who was playing the drums to all this loud music through his earphones. You remember that, the heavy metal drum kit he had in there. And he is financial genius, which predicted these problems as a few other people did at the time. So he's now predicting the same thing is going to happen again, because we've also got things like funds and people buying cryptocurrency that is leveraged. They borrowed money to buy it. We've got leveraged things like that. And if that starts to collapse, then if cryptos go down, stock market goes down, the property's got to follow. So I'm just a bit cautious at the moment about buying anything unless you can get a really good below market value deal. Now, of course, if you're buying somewhere to live, then whether the price goes up or down in the next few years is neither here nor there. You need somewhere to live, and usually buying is cheaper than renting in most cases, although that did change recently. It's leveled out now. But in general, over the long term, it's better to buy than rent if you're wanting somewhere to live. So a little pricing fluctuation doesn't matter. But if you're buying somewhere to flip, if you're buying a property now and you plan to turn it into 6 flats or something and then flip it next year, then that is a bigger risk. So you've got to have your plan B. Maybe say, well, if I can't get my money back on the development and the flip, then could I rent these properties out? Could I keep them and refinance them for a longer term loan? So just be careful with things like development projects and flips. Make sure you've got enough comfort in there to get you through if prices should dip. So thanks for listening. And if you've enjoyed this, then please like and share on whatever you're watching this on, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or you're looking at my podcast on iTunes. Do like it, share it if you can, and do follow me on other social media. And I'm also offering, if you're looking to change your financial situation, if you're looking to improve your financial situation, like you're earning money but you never seem to quite be able to accumulate money or save money or get money, put money together or keep money, then I'm offering a free Wealth Accelerator Discovery Coaching call to a small number of people in the next week or so. I don't have many slots available, so please click on that link below and you can book yourself into a slot for the free Wealth Accelerator Discovery Coaching call, which could transform your life. Thanks for listening, and have a great day, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Thanks for everyone on Facebook Live there. Kui, I can see you there. Thanks for listening. And I do appreciate all the likes and the comments, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or on my blog. But that does help with getting more free content out to people if you like and share my content. So thanks for listening. I hope this has been interesting and useful for you. Bye for now.